Hello, I'm Bob Colaresi from Illuman, Illinois Males. I made my men's rite of passage in August of 2005. The reason I went was really weird. I had been obviously moved by Richard Rohr and a lot of people who were inspiring men to look deeper inside them. But I also felt inside me something was empty. I had lived a very successful life. I had a fullness and I'd just been successful. God had blessed me so much. But yet inside, and everybody said, "Oh, look, don't you feel great?" And I said, "No, there was an emptiness inside me. There was something restless and it was gnawing and there was something not working right, in my life." And I felt I should, at this point, I was getting into the second half of my life, well into it. So that's what triggered me. So I went. Now, it was really scary. I almost backed out a week before because I got really nervous. I had this fear of being eaten alive by mosquitoes in the middle of the woods, having read, Adam's Return. But when I got there, I ended up having one of the most challenging and powerful experiences of my life. In fact, it scared me in the beginning. Had I driven there and my car was there, I probably after the first night would have said, driven away, and just got away. But I decided to stay and get into something but there was something moving deep inside me that had to happen. The motto always is, Jonah in the belly of the whale. And somehow I began to experience that because I had to face things. There were talks, there was some sharing in small groups, but the big thing was rituals. These really incredible rituals that really touched my soul, grabbed it, and touched sides of me that I didn't want to even be with. But they opened things up, and then as we spent time in the woods and times alone, it was incredible what was happening to me. And I had to deal with a lot of issues inside me that I had kind of buried. And they were things I didn't want to deal with, but they were things that were crippling me even as they had energized me. And that was hard, and it was hard to let go, and I began to grieve a lost life in me. And somewhere in the process of that, of letting go and surrendering it to it, not fighting it or trying to run away from it, in that experience, a lot of it was alone in the woods, listening to something deep within me, or God beyond me, and trying to becoming nakedly myself before that, as hard as that was. And suddenly I had to deal with something that had been crippling me all my life. In my case, it was an inadequacy. My father, all I remember him saying, "You got 4 A's and a B," and all he'd say, "Why'd you get a B?" So I felt about all my life, no matter how hard I tried, it wasn't good enough. So I felt inadequate. And somehow that was driving me. So I was always out to prove things to everybody. That's why I was successful. I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to let my inadequacy run me, and yet it was driving me. And so in the midst of that, I had to surrender that. I had to be with it and let it speak to me. And it was a long 6 or 8 hours, I remember, out there in that wilderness. And in the middle of it, something happened, something happened about that inadequacy. And I realized I surrendered it. And suddenly I realized that heaven opened up. It had a lot to do with my father, the last things he had said to me, which were powerful, wonderful things I wish he had said when I was younger. But suddenly I realized, oh my God, I was his beloved son. And then the heavens opened up, and the heavens smiled and embraced me. And in something that lasted, I don't know if it was 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 5 hours, but it transformed me, and I merged with the universe. And I really experienced being God's beloved son and the power, the energy, and responsibility of that. It transformed my life. How I wish I had done it when I was younger. But I did it when I was probably ready. And so I'd invite you. It certainly changed my life. The inadequacy didn't go away, but certainly its power and the vengefulness, it gentled me, that experience of initiation. It gentled me into my truer self, which is from my belovedness, not from the neediness of my inadequacy. So I'd invite you to try it. If God is calling you, and a lot of times it's calling you in funny ways. I was called because of an empty restlessness in my life, because I was exhausted from trying to make life happen out of my inadequacy, not out of my belovedness, and therefore it was all about me. And I had to learn to be that it was about God and that I was his beloved son. I invite you to come. It's a challenging time, it's a powerful time, it's a painful time, but it's a freeing time of authenticity. Thank you.